It's 9 in the morning, and the one task that could change your whole year is sitting right in front of you, but your hand is already reaching for your phone. Just one more video, just one more scroll, and somehow, hours later, the task is still untouched, and you feel worse than when you started. Because that invisible wall between you and your work has a name, and it isn't laziness. It's a single molecule. Thibaut Meurisse calls it the molecule of more. And over the next few minutes, he's going to show you how 48 hours of doing almost nothing can hand your focus back. We'll meet a man who hid his internet router behind 6 doors, and we'll find out why the very first thing you touch each morning quietly decides your entire day. Let's begin. Start with the thing almost everyone gets wrong. You've heard that dopamine is the pleasure chemical, the little hit of happiness your brain hands out as a reward. It isn't. Dopamine is the chemistry of wanting, not having. It's the force that makes you anticipate a reward, the food, the message, the win, and drives you to go and get it. It's why our ancestors kept hunting, kept surviving. But here's the twist Meurisse wants you to feel. The moment you actually get the reward, dopamine's job is done. The craving that felt so urgent a second ago just evaporates and often leaves you strangely empty. Refresh. Nothing. Scroll. Nothing. You weren't chasing pleasure. You were chasing the chase. And that is exactly why no amount of stimulation ever feels like enough. Meurisse has a name for this: the molecule of more. Because the more your world triggers dopamine, the more your brain demands the next hit. It's the exact machinery of addiction. Feed it, and your tolerance climbs until you need a stronger and stronger jolt just to feel normal. And it isn't only drugs or alcohol, gambling, shopping, video games, endless rumination, even work, even exercise, pushed to the extreme. So ask yourself his blunt question: is there anything you honestly can't go a single day without? If you can't set it down for 24 hours, you're a little addicted to it. That's not a moral failing. It's biology doing precisely what it evolved to do. The problem is that it evolved for a world of scarcity, and you live in a world that has learned to exploit it on purpose. Your focus is now one of the most valuable things you own, which is exactly why entire industries are built to steal it. Marketers spend billions to capture your attention. Apps are engineered to hook you. Think of that little red notification dot. How many times have you opened an app just because that circle lit up? Meurisse describes a simple experiment. Watch one basketball clip, and the algorithm serves you another, then another, until an hour has vanished. The internet stopped being a tool you use and quietly became a thing that uses you. And consider this: Steve Jobs, the man who sold the world its iPhones, forbade his own children from using them. Chamath Palihapitiya, a former Facebook executive, warns that these apps, in his words, wire your brain for super-fast feedback. The people who built the machine won't let their own kids near it. Let that sink in. The same hijack happens on your plate. Our craving for sugar and fat is innate. Meurisse cites a biologist, Suzanne Klaus, who found that sugar and fat together are especially good at lighting up the brain's reward system. The food industry knows this and slips sugar into nearly everything to keep you coming back for more. But here, Meurisse does something you almost never see in a book like this. He refuses to oversell it. You may have read online that sugar is as addictive as cocaine. He says flatly that that's not true. He quotes Robert Lustig, who places sugar closer to nicotine than to heroin, and a nutrition professor, Tom Sanders, who calls it absurd to suggest sugar is addictive like hard drugs. Cut it out, and you won't suffer heroin's withdrawal. So the honest takeaway isn't panic. It's simply that easing off sugar is a smart, low-cost win. And that honesty is what makes the rest of his advice worth trusting. There's a quieter cost to all this stimulation, and it may be the most expensive one of all. It steals your ability to think long-term. A Harvard researcher named Edward Banfield spent years studying success and concluded that long-time perspective, the ability to think years into the future while making decisions today, was the single most important predictor of financial and personal success in life. But a world of instant likes and one-click everything trains your brain to demand results. Now, now, now. Meurisse points to Amazon. Founded in 1994, it didn't post its first annual profit until 2003, $35 million, after losing $149 million the year before. Jeff Bezos could have grabbed profit far sooner. Instead, he laid foundations, one brick at a time. That patience is exactly what constant stimulation quietly destroys, and exactly what you'll need to reach anything that matters. So why can't you just sit down and do the work? Meurisse names a cause almost everyone overlooks. It isn't laziness, it's overstimulation. Picture two radio wavelengths. When you're calm, you're tuned to the frequency where deep, difficult work feels natural, even exciting. But every scroll, every video, every ping cranks you up onto a high stimulation wavelength. And that band has no overlap at all with the one where real work lives. He knows it firsthand. As a writer, the second he checks social media or peeks at his sales figures, writing becomes the most unappealing task he can imagine. That gap between where your brain is buzzing and where the work is quietly waiting, that gap is procrastination, which means the fix was never try harder. The fix is turn the volume down. But the moment you try, your own mind will fight you on it, hard. Because the instant you're overstimulated, your mind starts lying to you. 4 lies, specifically. The first, that going back to work will be easy. It won't. You'll lose hours, maybe the whole day. The second, that you can always do it later. But later hardens into a habit, and 5 years from now, you'll be furious at how little you actually built. The third is the cruelest, that excitement equals fulfillment. It doesn't. The buzz of one more video feels like living, but once it fades, ask yourself honestly, did any of it make your life better? And the fourth, that you're missing out, that you'd better check in case something urgent happens. That's just fear wearing a scarcity costume. Opportunities aren't running out. There will always be more. Catch these 4 lies in the act, and you've already started to wake up. So what actually is a dopamine detox? Not what the internet sold you. And Meurisse is careful here. He even admits, up front, that the name is scientifically wrong. You're not flushing dopamine out of your body. That's not how any of this works. What you're really doing is lowering your baseline of stimulation so your brain can drift back to a calmer, more natural state. And here's the payoff you've been waiting for. When you need less stimulation to feel okay, that boring, hard, tedious task stops looking unbearable. It becomes approachable, sometimes even inviting. That's the entire mechanism. No mysticism, no magic reset button for your brain. Just turning the dial down long enough for your own attention to come home to you. And Meurisse gives you 3 ways to do it, from the gentle to the almost monastic. The first is the 48-hour complete detox. For 2 full days, you strip away nearly every source of stimulation. Phone, internet, social media, movies, video games, sugar, even music, except something calming. And in their place, walking, journaling, meditation, reading, stretching. The second is that same idea softened to 24 hours, easier to do, a little less powerful. And the third, the partial detox, removes only your single biggest distraction. For Meurisse, that's YouTube, but keeps it gone for the long haul. Now, if 48 hours sounds brutal, consider his friend Nils, who sat a 10-day silent Vipassana retreat. No talking, no reading, no writing, no eye contact, no phone, for 10 straight days. Suddenly, 2 days of quiet sounds almost gentle, doesn't it? So the only question left is how you actually pull it off. Meurisse breaks it into 3 steps. Step 1 is simple. Get brutally honest about what's stealing your attention. Take a single sheet of paper and draw 2 columns. Label one cans and the other cans. In the cans column, go the activities you'll allow yourself. A walk, reading, the actual work. In the can'ts column, go the ones you'll cut. The feeds, the inbox, the endless open tabs. And to find the ones that really matter, ask yourself one sharp question. If I stopped doing just one thing, which would boost my focus the most? Keep asking until the list feels true. Then put that page somewhere you physically cannot avoid seeing it. On the desk, on the wall. It's your map. And later, when your mind starts quietly negotiating for just one peek, it's your evidence. Because the next step is where the real leverage is hiding. Step 2. Add friction. The principle is this. The harder something is to reach, the less you'll do it. So instead of leaning on willpower, Meurisse redesigns his environment. And he takes it to a gloriously absurd extreme. To stop himself slipping online, he carried his internet router all the way down to a basement storage room. To get back online, he'd have to leave his apartment, ride the elevator down 4 floors, and open door after door after door. 12 separate frictions, there and back. His lazy brain took one look at that and simply gave up. That's the whole trick. We're wired to avoid wasting energy, so make the bad habit exhausting. Phone in another room, notifications off, a browser extension that strips YouTube suggestions, then flip it. Make the good behavior effortless. Meurisse leaves his writing file open, music ready, timer set. Design it right, and your environment does your discipline for you. Step 3 is about timing, and it's smaller than it sounds, but it decides everything. Start first thing in the morning, before the world has had a single chance to stimulate you. Because the very first thing you touch when you wake sets the wavelength for your entire day. Reach for your phone, and you've already lost. The emails, the notifications, the likes have flipped you into the hamster wheel before you've even had breakfast. So Meurisse builds a short morning routine designed to calm rather than excite. A few minutes of meditation, some stretching, writing down the day's goals, listing a few things he's grateful for. 2 or 3 simple things, done in the same order, every single day. It sounds almost too modest to matter. But hold on to his line. One tiny decision, first thing in the morning, can quietly shape everything that follows. But something unexpected happens in all that silence, and it's the part most people aren't ready for. When you finally switch off the noise, you're left alone with yourself. Meurisse says, use it. Reflect on your goals. Are they even truly yours? Pour your worries onto paper, where they shrink from vague monsters into problems you can actually solve. But then he says the quiet part out loud. Our endless hunt for stimulation, he suggests, is often just a way to avoid ourselves. Staying busy lets us dodge the uncomfortable feelings and the scary truths we'd rather never face. So when the distractions fall away and a fear floats up to the surface, write that down too. Because you were never only running from boredom. You were running from something. And the detox is how you finally turn around and look it in the eye. Once your mind is quieter, the work itself needs a shape. And Meurisse's tool is almost defiantly low-tech, a pen and a piece of paper. Each morning, write down 3 to 5 key tasks in order of importance and start at the top. Not a sprawling, guilt-inducing to-do list, just the few that genuinely move the needle. To find them, ask, if I could finish only one task today, which would have the greatest impact? He boils real productivity down to 3 words: focus, consistency, impact. Focus is holding your attention on the task in front of you. Consistency is showing up day after day, week after week, year after year. Impact is choosing the tasks that actually count. Put them together, and productivity is simply this: consistent focus on your most important work. Everything else is just motion, pretending to be progress. So how do you hold that focus once you finally sit down? Meurisse points to Stephen King, who sits at the same desk at the same time every single day. King doesn't wait for inspiration to strike. He starts, trusting that inspiration turns up once he's already working. That's the secret. Same place, same time, until your brain stops negotiating and just begins. Pick a small trigger, making a cup of tea, finishing a short meditation that tells your mind, now we work. Then simply start, even badly, for a few minutes, and you'll often slip into flow, that state the psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi described, where you're so absorbed the outside world falls away. Kill every distraction and work in one unbroken block. Meurisse caps his at 45 minutes. Here's the reversal most people never learn. Action doesn't come from motivation. Motivation comes from action. You just have to move first. And here is the single sharpest idea in the whole book, the one that finally answers what you should touch first each morning. Meurisse splits the world into open systems and closed systems. An open system is anything that feeds you an endless, bottomless stream. Email, Facebook, YouTube, the internet itself. There's no finish line, no moment you're ever done, and an almost infinite number of ways to get lost. A closed system is the exact opposite. A Word document, a spreadsheet, a single file with edges. It can only ever hold what you put into it, so it forces you to work and only work. So his rule is beautifully simple. Begin your day inside a closed system. Open the document before you open anything else. That one decision, the very first thing you touch, is the whole game. Choose the closed door, and the distractions never get their hook in. Now for the honest part, almost no productivity book will admit you are going to relapse. Days, weeks, maybe months in, you'll slide right back into the noise. And Meurisse says that is completely normal, that it happens to him too. The mistake isn't the relapse. It's the guilt that follows, because beating yourself up only digs the hole deeper. So don't. Just restart the routine, one day at a time, and understand what you're truly up against, because it is not a fair fight. The whole world is engineered to take your attention. Your focus is worth a fortune to YouTube, to Facebook, to everyone selling the next hit. But here's the reframe that changes everything. Your focus is worth a fortune to you too. Guard it, and you can rebuild your entire life around it. Surrender it, and someone else gets to spend it for you. So prepare in advance, write down the worst-case moments, and rehearse how you'll respond before they ever arrive. And then Meurisse offers the gentlest idea in the whole book, the true antidote to the molecule of more. Dopamine is forever pulling you toward the next thing, but you carry other chemistry too, what he calls the here and now neurotransmitters, endorphins, oxytocin, serotonin, the ones that make you feel calm and present instead of hungry for more. And you don't cultivate them by chasing. You cultivate them by slowing down. Meditate for a few minutes. Stretch. Eat one meal slowly enough to actually taste it. Take a walk and genuinely notice the bird song, the wind on your face, the shape of clouds you'd normally scroll straight past. Sit with real people. And strangest of all, practice being bored. Doing nothing at all. This is the life waiting on the other side of the detox. Not emptier, but fuller. Commit to it for 30 days, he says, and watch what the quietly gives back. So in the end, it comes down to a single choice, and you make it every morning without even noticing. You can control your focus, or you can let someone else take it from you. Remember where we started. You at your desk, hand drifting toward your phone, the important task untouched, that invisible wall you couldn't explain. Now you can name it. It was the molecule of more, whispering that the next hit, the next scroll, the next jolt of excitement would finally be enough. It never was, because excitement was never the same thing as fulfillment. So picture the other morning instead. The phone in the next room. One document open. 45 unbroken minutes, and the work actually moving. That's not a smaller life. It's your life, handed back to you. The molecule will always whisper more. The whole secret is learning that you don't need more, you need less. If this hit home, watch our breakdown of atomic habits next. It's the perfect next brick to lay. Reclaim your focus, and we'll see you there.